This video is brought to you by Bookmark.com. Bookmark's a free website builder where you can create a professional-looking website with hosting in just a couple minutes by answering 7 simple questions. Bookmark's AI engine, Ada, literally builds your website right in front of your face in less than 2 minutes, and you can edit virtually every aspect of the page once it's complete. You can also upgrade to connect your existing domain and create an online store with e-commerce integration. It's awesome. Click the link in the description below or check them out at Bookmark.com. Yo, I'm Brian P. You're watching Bad Seed Tech, and today we're taking a look at the AND Pro 2 gaming keyboard from Obens Lab. I know, I said I wasn't even going to review this board, but in the history of this channel, I don't think I've ever had a piece of hardware more hotly requested by you guys than this one. To make the most of this review, I highly recommend that you watch my review of the Ducky 1-2 Mini first, which you can do right up here. I'll also link it at the end. I bought this unit at flashquark.com because Amazon was out of stock. I did have to pay $13 worth of shipping here, but it arrived in 4 days. Normally, this board retails for $79.99 anywhere you can find it, but after shipping was calculated, I wound up getting this for about $14 cheaper than I did the 1-2 Mini. So the length and width of this board are even smaller than the Ducky, if that's possible, if only by a few millimeters in every direction. That's primarily because the bezel on this thing is razor thin, even though it's built really solid and doesn't see any frame flex or squeak like we saw in the Ducky. It's a little thicker overall too because the case design here is one piece with the soft incline actually poured into the case itself as opposed to having adjustable feet. The incline here is very similar to what you'd see on the 1-2 Mini if you were using the middle adjustment on the 2 adjustment feet there, and this guy tips the scales at 613 grams. This board is available in either black or white, and it comes with either Gateron or Kailh switches. These are both copies of the Cherry MX switch design, but some people out there would argue that the Gateron switch is a little smoother. I can't call it. To me, these feel very good, very similar to the Cherry MX switches, and I don't have any issues with the stabilizers. The keyboard connects with a cable that's USB-C to USB-A, but it does have polarity, so you have to make sure the right end is up when you insert the cable, which is really odd. The cable is rubberized, about 6 feet long. It's got some pretty good flex, feels like a quality cable, but red was a super weird color choice here. Now, obviously, the money shot of the AND Pro 2 is that it can also connect over Bluetooth to your phone, your tablet, your PC, or your Mac. The keycaps here are double-shot PBT with pass-through for the lighting, and the font is that generic disconnected font you've probably seen on those cheap OEM pudding cap sets that have been making the rounds lately. The keycaps do have some uniformity issues as well. You can see subtle differences between the 2 control keys and the 2 alt keys. You can also see that the bottom row on the right-hand side doesn't sit entirely straight all the way across. The function key sits crooked. They also include 11 multicolor blank keycaps here as well. These are PBT also. It's the same color set in every box if you want to customize your board a little bit, and you also get a wire keycap puller. Got a steel base plate here, and despite having a gloss white paint job to reflect some of the lighting here is not as bright or as saturated as we see on the 1-2 Mini, even on the brightest setting. It's worth noting here too that while these flicker really bad on camera, they don't do that in real life. For lighting, you can cycle between 7 single color profiles. You also get like a stack rainbow effect that works on the rows. You also get basic breathing, color cycle, and a rainbow wave mode. And you can do per key lighting here, but unlike the Ducky, which handles all that on the hardware, this is handled in software. So yeah, that's another piece of software you're gonna have to install on your system if you wanna tailor the lighting, customize your macros, do any key remapping, use some of the advanced key features, or update the firmware. I will say here that the key remapping features on the AND Pro 2 greatly exceed what you can do on the Ducky. So attempting to do per key lighting was the first major bug I found with the AND Pro 2. The color uniformity on the LEDs is fine if you're using a flat color profile across the surface or in any of the pre-installed lighting effects. But when picking per key lighting, the color uniformity is all over the place. You can take 4 different keys, assign them all to the same color in the software, and I guarantee you that one of those colors is going to be wrong. It was extremely annoying, but they actually fixed this in a firmware update that came out Wednesday morning, literally right before I sat down to film this video. It's worth noting here too that before installing this firmware fix, I also had to update the Obens Lab starter software as well because the version they had pushed out a couple days prior broke the ability to update firmware to the keyboard. Now, as far as performance goes, I can't notice any difference using this keyboard in wired mode versus using any of my other high-end mechanical boards. After using the 1-2 Mini extensively, really my only complaint with that board was the positioning of the arrow keys and the fact you had to trigger them with a function layer. Which, while I don't use them a lot for gaming, I do use them a lot for writing and editing. So the AND Pro 2 has a really awesome trick here. The right shift, function, menu, and control key actually become arrow keys if you just lightly tap them. It makes the transition from a full-size or a TKL board to a 60% board a lot easier. You can function hold the WAS keys for arrow keys as well, but this quick tap access in a hand position where you would normally find the arrow keys is genius. I love it. Now let's talk about that Bluetooth. Short version, it works. And it works really well with no noticeable lag or latency. And you can have this board paired to up to 4 different devices at the same time and simply toggle which one you're paired to on the fly. For typing and day-to-day use, it's solid. As far as gaming goes, I would say this is fine for casual gaming scenarios, but I wouldn't attempt to use the Bluetooth for anything that's ranked or competitive. The issue comes when it momentarily loses connectivity and becomes unresponsive, if only for a second. In my solid 3-hour gaming test with this board, my copy did this twice. Again, it's only for a moment, but it could really cost you if it happens at the wrong time. So there are issues with this board. My copy, at least, was a little buggy. Sometimes the backlight just doesn't want to come on. If I'm using this thing wired and Windows goes to sleep, on wake up I have to unplug and plug this keyboard back in before it's responsive again. This doesn't happen in Bluetooth mode, only when it's wired. Twice I've had a key stick and just keep outputting characters endlessly. In wired mode. In comparison to the plug-and-play nature of the 1-2 Mini, this is really annoying. A keyboard is not something I should have to troubleshoot on average about 1 time every time I sit down at my desk. This is an incredibly flexible board, but just be mentally prepared that you're gonna have to deal with a few bugs here and there until Obens Lab rolls out a fix. Now luckily, Obens updates often, as I've updated the software for this board twice in the week that I've owned it, and the firmware on the board 3 times in a week. As for battery life and Bluetooth, I ran this with the backlight on at the highest brightness, and like that I got about 7 to 8 hours before I had to recharge. It went from 0 to full in approximately 2 hours. You can check the battery status by going either into the Obens Lab software, even though sometimes it misreports, or you can show it on the hardware itself. I would imagine this battery life increases greatly if you're not using the backlight. So for me, the Amp Pro 2 is a solid performer and it's really flexible, but you have to have patience to deal with some bugs. The lighting update that came out Wednesday solved a lot of my initial issues with this board. And it may feel like nitpicking here, but the tolerances on the keycaps bother me a little bit. If you have OCD-like tendencies at all, be prepared for a couple of keys on your board to sit crooked. As for the overall quality of the lighting, you might actually prefer a dimmer or more subdued lighting effect, so that's going to come down to personal preference. You do have to have an additional piece of software on your computer, but programming per key lighting is a lot easier in the software, and the depth of the key remapping is insane. And the implementation of the quick tap access to the arrow keys on the right-hand side of the board, very cool. But the wireless here is really the deciding factor. Bluetooth makes it really flexible, and it's actually usable for casual gaming. It also lends itself to a cleaner looking setup and to portability because you can use this with virtually any device that allows a Bluetooth connection, and it's built so tough I would throw this in a bag and not think anything about it. And that portability is great, but just know that if you plan on running that backlight on all the time, you're going to be recharging often. But the buggy nature and the constant updates are probably the biggest turnoffs for me. I kind of feel like I'm a beta tester and not a customer. I will leave an Amazon affiliate link in the description below if you think this would still be a good performer for you, and I would warn you that wherever you buy this from, please make sure that they have a strong return policy. Flashquark.com will only allow returns if the device is defective. And since I know everyone's gonna ask me in the comments, this or the 1-2 Mini, it's like this. Go with the Amp Pro 2 if you need really deep key mapping or the Bluetooth or portability is important to you. If you're gonna use this in straight up wired mode, my nod goes to the Ducky, as long as you can deal with the Ducky's implementation of the arrow keys and you're aware that there is going to be some squeak on the frame. And because I know you guys want it, by the time this video drops, I've probably already received my Vortex Poker 3 RGB, so the review will be out for that very soon. And that's it for this time. I'm Brian P. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button, hit that sub button, and until next time, stay up.